Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today I'm doing another indie spotlight. I have coming all the way from the UK. He is a writer, director, producer. He has three movies right now streaming on Tubi: The Unwelcome, Pounce, and Corpse Sniper. I have Keith Robertson. Keith, how are you doing, my friend?
Hi, mate. Good to see you. How's things?
Pleasure having you on.
Thank
Pleasure.
you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. Excellent.
So real quick, I have had the pleasure to see two of your movies, The Unwelcome as well as Corpse Sniper. So tell us a little bit about each one of those projects.
Um, yeah, I mean, um, I started making film obviously like a long time ago, and obviously getting up to feature films was the main sort of like thrust of things. So, The Unwelcome was filmed in around 2007, 2008, and then we released that. It got like a small streaming release because obviously things were different back in 2010, 2011, uh, as how things are now. So, and that got released, and then I kind of shelved that a little bit because I wasn't too happy with it. And then I started working on Pounce, which we actually got a budget for Pounce in the sort of tens of thousands of pounds, as opposed to the tens of thousands of pence, which earlier films were shot for. And then produced that in about 2013, 2014, and then it got a DVD release in the UK, I believe. It's since had one in America, but like a few years later. As with all distribution, it's like dribs and drabs. It comes out here, then it comes out there, then it comes out, somewhere else, and you just keep on following the trends from streaming to whatever it's going to be coming up now. So yeah, two films released, and then Sniper Corps obviously was 2019. And we're producing a new film now, which should hopefully be out next year. So yeah, just keeping busy.
Sweet. And I enjoyed both your movies, especially Corpse Sniper. I mean, the title alone caught my attention. Now, what were your
It's
inspiration?
the least successful of my films, that one. I don't know why.
It's just an interesting title. It's like, what is this? Corpse Sniper. Okay, let me see what this is. So, what was your inspiration in coming up with the idea of having, a sniper that's corpse?
I wanted after Pounce, which was a big like werewolf puppet thing, which is really expensive and complicated. I just want to do something like a bit more simpler. Our budget was probably about half the budget of Pounce, so we had half the effects to play around with. And I thought, what's easy to do, and like zombie masks compared to a sort of big animatronic creature seemed like an easy way to go. And then just suddenly thought, okay, zombie soldiers, there you go. I think I was inspired by a comic book. I think it's called 68. If you've heard of that one, it's about Vietnam, zombies in Vietnam. And I just like, that's cool, and sort of try something like that. And that's where it sort of come from.
Wow. I mean, it for me, like so I grew up in the 80s and I love Swamp Thing.
Hmm.
Direct Wes Craven. It just had a Swamp Thing feel to it. To have this monster who is also somewhat of a hero.
Yeah, well, it's more. I would say around that time, I was more influenced by Clive Barker's Nightbreed, where the monsters are the heroes,
Hmm.
and I was like, yeah, I want to do something like that. Let's have the zombie being the hero of sorts. He's still a zombie, obviously, but he's not like a flesh-eating one. But let's try and do something slightly different and interesting with that. So it's yeah, sort of getting around the mind of the dead soldier who's been brought back to life to go on killing sprees and missions, and then he suddenly like awakes, and so what would happen? So yeah, but and have some fun along the way, of course.
and I and I love their practical effects. Now, how much fake blood, did you have to use?
We had a few gallons for that, uh,
It was squirting
and
all the place.
and used all different kinds of practical effects. Obviously, I didn't want. There's a little bit of CGI in it, but not much. But I wanted like the real bullet. hits. I wanted it to be like RoboCop. You know, there's like loads and loads of like blood and bullet hits and mayhem and like real effects. You know, so we had real squibs which I'd used before, some real blanks. But also I come up with a cheap way of doing bullet hits as well, which was the Jim Van Bebber way of doing it. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Mm-mm.
He directed Deadbeat at Dawn, which is an 80s grindhouse classic. And he basically got eggs and then took the insides out, basically make a hole top and bottom, blow the egg out, and then they get the eggs filled up with the fake blood, and then paint them red, and you throw them at the actors, and they just explode and make a really gruesome splat. Because like we were shooting out in like woods and stuff with no permits, and the squibs and that make a hell of a noise in the middle of the night. So we was like, oh, how can we get around that? So the egg idea sort of stemmed from that, and it's, you know, it doesn't make any noise. So you can like be throwing them, blood can be coming, and it just looks like a cheap, trashy way of doing it as well. You know.
I mean, even like in the opening scenes, when the soldiers are chasing out some drug cartel, and when they shoot like the arms off, like you just see it like.
Oh yeah, it was real squibs,
Yeah.
and sort of blowing arms off, some bags of blood, a couple of explosions, and stand back kind of thing, yeah. And the head was obviously a squib, two squibs I think in that, and a big blood bag. The kind of Tom Savini school of packing a fake head with apple cores and blood, and I don't know, we had all kinds of stuff in that, and then just blowing them up. The weird thing was, for like a lot of the fake heads, I was filming them in a garage, and the garage was like really small, so I'd have to set it up and then put the explosives in, and then go outside the garage, close the door, set the cameras off, sort of push the button to make it go off, and then come in and see what happened, and then roll the camera back and see if I got it quite well, because it was so small. I didn't want to get like injured or anything, so it was like set it up and then just set the cameras going and just run outside, close the door, and set them off. I mean, low budget filmmaking for you. Safety precautions on low budgets.
Exactly. And listen, your movies are, if you're looking for that 80s B movie over the top gore, then like Keith's movies are where it's at. Now, if you're looking for that over the top CGI stuff, you're not going to find it. All practical effects. So if you're a practical effect fan like I am, that's where it's at. Now, from making your first movie, The Unwelcome, to now working on your newest project, what is the one biggest thing that you have learned about filmmaking, especially horror?
Oh, the biggest thing.
That if you could go back to.
Just to take your time more. I think I rushed things too much in the earlier films. You're always on a tight budget and tight schedule, and I just learned to take your time a bit more and keep re-editing, which is the story of The Unwelcome. Basically, it got made once, I didn't like it, so I shelved it for 12 years, and then re-edited it a few more times and got it back into shape. So that also, as a director, I'm learning a lot more of the job of directing in terms of atmosphere and backgrounds, and it's not just about like an actor in front of the camera. It's what's going on behind that sells the shot. If you've got like 10 extras walking past, it just sells the shot a lot better. Or you've got some lighting thing going on behind. So in this new film, we've used a lot of smoke, a lot of coloured and clever lighting, and just basically taking our time more with it. You're always on a tight time limit on any film, and you're tired and you just want to go home, and sometimes you think, oh, yeah, it's done, and then you just cut it together, it doesn't work, oh well, we'll leave, and you got to think, no, let's go back and reshoot that, or let's re-edit that. And so I'd say definitely just and sort of distance and yourself from the project, and coming back like after a few weeks and like watching it with fresh eyes and going, oh, that doesn't work, and I've got to fix that, because so many times you're just in a hurry, or you get so caught up in the editing process, and you can't tell what's working and what's not working. Oh, and also, it's not just the one biggest thing. Watching your film with an audience is the best learning process, because you may think you got the best film ever, and then you sort of play it to an audience, and it goes down like a bomb, and you're like, shit. But you can tell, because you can tell when it's slow and people are shuffling, or they're bored, or they're getting up and walking out. You think, oh, I've got to sort of speed that scene up a bit, or that part of the film up a bit. You can tell when it works, when they cheer or go, oh, that shit. Or, so yeah, definitely, so many things I've learned over the years to make a better film. Yeah.
Now, to be a filmmaker, so I interview a lot of new filmmakers, horror filmmakers. Is criticism okay? Like, I feel like even with me, like a new YouTuber, it's hard for me to take criticism, but I've learned to, hey, some constructive criticism is great. How big is constructive criticism to you as a filmmaker?
It's essential, I think. Absolutely. I mean, I'd love to sit here and have you tell me all the bad points in my films, and list them all in a big thing.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, cool. I'm actually open to that. And what I don't like is this kind of culture of online and everything has just got to be dissed. It's just got to be, oh, it's crap, and it's also confusing, because you read the reviews on your films, and someone likes it and someone hates it, and probably in equal numbers, and you think it is subjective to someone's opinion. Someone might go, well, that's a cheap crap film, and just hate it because it's cheap. Fair enough, you don't like them types of films, but yeah, I mean, a lot of it is the current trend on the internet, is everyone's got a voice, and they just want to write bad reviews, just for the hell of it. And I think, like most people, especially low budget films, don't realize how difficult it is to make a film. But I mean, that's irrelevant. That's, people aren't going to see that and go, oh, he had a hard time making that film, let's give him a good review. It's irrelevant, but it's not taken into account, But no, definitely constructive criticism. No one's film is perfect, and mine especially. So yeah, I'm always sort of interested in what people think, the sort of what they liked and what they didn't like. Because every film's a compromise anyway. So someone might say, well, that film's a bit slow, or that. It's like, well, we didn't have any more money to blow anything else up, so we had to keep it slow, So it's yeah, like it's that kind of sort of way.
And that's something that I learned, when I first started my YouTube channel. I was doing horror movie, low budget horror movie reviews, and like, I was probably nasty about some of those movies. And then once I started interviewing and getting to know indie filmmakers, I don't do that anymore. I don't. Sure, there are some movies that I don't like, but at the same time, I don't need to put that into the aura and let people know that, and there's a way to criticize someone, I mean, even for me to look at my first YouTube video and look at my YouTube video now, it's a huge difference. Yes, my first couple YouTube videos were shit. But like, it's kind of hard to criticize, a indie filmmaker who is, newer into the game, if not working with a limited amount of budget.
Yeah. It's not difficult if you're criticizing the budget or the craft of the filmmaking.
Correct.
It's a tough thing, because just because something looks really cheap, it's like isn't the filmmaker's fault necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So
got to work with what you have. And I mean, it doesn't make, just because it looks cheap does not mean it's a good piece of art, you know? So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like, even if the lighting's bad or the sound's bad, you know, if you can see that there's like passion behind it,
mhm.
or just some talent in some camera work or storytelling, basically, isn't it? You know, if you can see that and see beyond the camera or the lens or the lighting, yeah, I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere, haven't they? And no one jumps in with all the right know-how and stuff. But I just, yeah, it's just there's a lot of the audience nowadays. I don't know what their thing is. You know, it's not about just like watching a film and just going, yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. It's like, you know, I mean, some people get like really irate, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
this film, I hate this film. It's like, it's obviously
Listen,
not
I
for
get,
you, but I like that. I mean, like, if someone is that irritated by my movie that they'll write a 2-page thing of how it must have affected them in some way.
exactly. I mean, I get the same comments on my YouTube channel, and my response is always like, "Thank you for watching. I'm You watched it, so I mean, if you watch any of my videos all the way through, there's something about it that you like, because you would have just clicked off from the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, listen, there's
You have
something
to
like,
understand, if you sort of put yourself out there,
hmm
you're going to get it. You know, if
yeah,
you write a song, if you make a film, if you post a video anywhere, you just, you know, like, I think I remember Ridley Scott said on his Pauline Kael or Kael, I think I forget her name. I did a review of Blade Runner when it first come out, and she wrote like a 10-page complete, hated the film, hated everything about it, and he said he never read a review again after that. And he says he doesn't even read reviews. And you're like, you know, some people like it, some people don't like it, and everyone's got their own opinion. So, but to be a filmmaker, a low budget independent filmmaker, you have to be thick skinned, because you're going to get it. You're going to get a lot of crap thrown at you, a lot,
yes,
and it's constant.
it is.
And it, you know, they just go on IMDb and look up Star Wars, and it's, you know, it's not like 100%. It's like 98 on the, and there's still bad reviews. You
Every,
know,
yeah, it just, everything's not everybody cup of tea. It's like, I like indie movies. I mean, I like the gritty look. I like the low budget. I don't I don't gauge those movies on the same scales as the $100 million blockbuster.
yeah,
I'm more I have less tolerance for someone who has a budget that big and they put out a crappy product than someone who's working with five, $10, $20,000. You know, so I mean,
yeah,
it's a different gauge.
yeah. I mean, what annoys me more than budget or talent uh, is just the people who are. I'm not going to say people, but like, if someone just makes a film that's just got not much imagination behind it, or is copying something else. If someone goes out and just makes a slasher film, and it's like, you know, I ain't got much interest in that, because we've seen them a million times. You got to, you know, come up with something and some characters that you actually like. You know,
Hmm.
you don't just want, you know, someone just going around stabbing someone, and, you know, because you've seen that, you know, to death. For we're in a strange time in the history of the world where films are just repeats of repeats of repeats of repeats, and the golden age of the 70s and 80s is long behind us, and
Hmm.
yet everyone harks back to that time as, you know, oh, that's, you know, the best. And yeah, it probably was the best time, but we're stuck here now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like, our tolerance as audiences is, we've seen all the gore, we've seen all the creatures, we've seen all the effects. So the only thing that can really get us moved now is a good story or good storytelling, I think. Because just chucking blood against the screen now, it's just not going to do it. We've seen that. I mean, once you got to Brain Dead, the Peter Jackson film, or Dead Alive as it was called in America. Films really couldn't get any more gory than that.
Yeah.
And I think he just did that to prove a point. And then where do you go from there? You know, there's like a ceiling, like we've hit the ceiling and bounced down, and we're just hovering underneath the ceiling again. So where do you go? You can't shock anyone anymore, really.
Like, I think the older I've gotten, always been a big horror fan, but the older I've gotten is story is more important to me than the gore.
Yeah.
I need to like the characters. I have to care about the characters that are going to die or trying to survive. And I mean, you go in the 80s, you watch any Friday the 13th movie, it's just bodies that are lined up. There's no character development. You don't know anything about them. It's just bodies, And I like to watch a horror movie where I actually care about the characters. Even with Sniper, I believe his name is Michael Reese, isn't it? Corporal Reese?
Yeah.
I care about his character. I mean, this was a character who's something tragic happened, and you kind of follow him, and he had a family. You get to know a little bit about this character.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we tried to. I'm always trying to do a story which, the characters actually are important, and there's just some heart and soul going on. There's too many films where it's just a chase, or and it's not a story; it's an effect, or one effect after another. So with like Sniper Corpse or Corpse Sniper.
Yeah.
It is too, like in America it's Corpse Sniper, in the UK it's Sniper Corpse. The whole story was, let's find an interesting story which had a bit of emotion to it, Then we found a wonderful actress, Celery Jones, and a great actor, Jordan Murphy, who played the soldier, and then another actor who voiced him. And just tried to have a story where it sort of turns into characters we care about, and then hopefully you did, in a certain way. But also have some gore in it. It's not just like, we've got to have really like a love story, it's got to have some gore in it as well. And
a little bit in there, yeah.
Some action and some and then Kit Smith playing the Colonel Braddock character, just chewing all the scenery everywhere and going over the top. And the weird thing was, his character, as crazy and over the top as he was, every take that's in that film is the take after 4 or 5 takes where I go, no, Kit, just try and bring it right down a bit. And that was the one I used, because it was too much. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. And we just tried to get, just a good story. I mean, I always go from films like by George Romero, or someone who tries to get something else going on in his films, not just a good action sequence or a chase. I mean, look at Day of the Dead, where they're talking about life, the universe, and everything, like in a zombie film.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm inspired by that a little bit as well.
Now, so you've been making films since 2007, and now it's 2023.
Yeah.
Is it easier with streaming services, Tubi, Plex, as a indie filmmaker, to get your project out, especially in the UK, getting it over to the US, over the pond? Do you think is it easier?
In 2023, I think it is a bit easier, yeah, because things have changed. In, say, when Pounce first got a release, I must admit, in a cut, truncated form, I must add, to get a 15 certificate in the UK on DVD. That was in 2015, 2016. But that was then. I mean, DVD releases are rare nowadays, I think. I don't think anyone's even trying to release DVDs. Because if you go to the shops and look at the Blu-rays, there's a lot of old films there, but not many new ones. Mm-hmm. So it's moved on to streaming platforms, and it's easier now, yeah, to get on streaming platforms. The trick is always to get paid by the streaming platforms. It's easy to get on them, but getting paid is the trick. So you got to know what to do and who to see.
As a new filmmaker that's out there, is it profitable with the streaming than it was the physical DVD, or is it a little bit worse?
It's about the same, but it takes longer to get the money from streaming. But streaming is the thing is it keeps changing. Because when it first started, Amazon Prime was the go-to for indie filmmakers, and they paid really well, But then it got full up with content, and they stopped paying as much. And there's lots of stuff on Amazon where loads of people uploading the same film. There's about 4 or 5 different versions of Pounce on there, which I can't get taken down, being uploaded by other people, other companies. I've sublet it to one company, who sublet it to another, so yeah, that was Amazon. But there's good stuff like Tubi, which is free, Plex TV, which is free, Shudder, which I don't think any of my films are playing on there yet. They've overlooked me for some reason. But there's Apple TV, and lots of little ones that are like Roku TV, and there was Binge Horror. Because so many channels start up and then close down or get bought out by other bigger companies. So I had there was the 3 or 4 companies, and some of them got bought out, and Real House was another one. But most of them get bought out just when they're going to pay you, so you don't get paid.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a minefield, streaming, but if you know sort of where to go, and then you try lots of different things, some of them work, so you keep them ones going,
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a case of you just have to dive in. I mean, I would not try and get a distributor to distribute my films again, because you'll see one chunk of money and then that's it. And they've tied your film up for 7 years or 10 years or whatever,
So I see a lot of young filmmakers, they are using distributors, and they say it's great for them. But I understand the concept. Like, I'm a marketing guy, to have someone to do the marketing for you, to do the legwork. But at the same time, like you're saying, it's tying you up for a long period of time.
Yeah, from my experience, and I mean, I'm just going from my own experience. It's like a little bit of money up front, and then that's it. You don't see any more money after that. But I'm not even sure if they're paying advances anymore, or like MGs, because I'm just hearing horror stories from low budget distributors. There's a Facebook page of distributors to avoid, and there's a big list of them. And I seem to be having just as much success sort of doing it myself. I have got one distributor, must admit, who is wonderful, but I'm not going to tell you who they are. They're really good, a US one. So I kind of do half and half. I do non-exclusive deals. So if they make money, great. If I make money, then great. We don't sort of overlap each other. So they do mostly US, and I'll do rest of the world, And like any filmmaker, yeah, I'm always trying to sign a non-exclusive deal, because then you're free to sell it again to someone else,
Yeah.
There's loads of distributors who say, oh, it's an exclusive for this continent or country, and then you're stuck with that, But I think most, a lot of the streaming sites I'm signing with now, and I keep getting people messaging me saying, come on this site, and it's all non-exclusive deals. The question is, are they going to pay?
Yeah.
I mean, like if it's a start-up company, okay, they're starting up and they want content, so I'll give, because at the end of the day, someone's going to watch the film if I get paid or not. So, but the smaller ones, usually it takes a longer time to get the money back, if any comes at all. So I would just say be careful. What I would advise to do is if some streaming site comes to you and says, "Oh, I want all your films," I say, "Well, I'll give you one of my films, and if like any money comes back, then you can have the others, and do it that way than just giving them all your films and you sit around waiting and then nothing comes back, which has happened before a few times. But that's the film industry.
Yeah, it's a dangerous game.
But I'm sure if you can get into festivals and make a bit of a splash at a festival, you'll get a bigger distributor who will say, "I'll put you out on DVD and Blu-ray," and he might give you some money. But I don't know. I mean, like, self-distributing, you're constantly making money forever, Whereas if you sign a deal with someone, like I said, my experience is they pay you some money up front and then don't pay you anything else, and say, "Oh, it's not made anything else," but it clearly is when
If it made
10
hundreds
years
of
later.
thousands, yeah.
Or just sign for like 1 year or 2 years. I've signed for longer than that. So. And it's always changing,
Yeah,
2 years' time, what I say now will be completely different,
completely different.
I think the world is going AVOD as opposed to SVOD, which is what it was, Netflix had the corner of the market for a long time and made a ton of money, and then everyone thought, "Oh, look what they're doing," So Paramount, Disney, Apple all come along, and now the marketplace is flooded.
It's
Um,
saturated.
yeah, no one's making any money now because and people are going to think, "I'm not going to pay $7.99 a month for Netflix and $7.99 a month for Paramount, and I'll be paying like $200 or £200 a month to watch all these channels," and so they're going to go to Tubi, which is free.
Mm-hmm.
It just has adverts on it. So, and I think that's where everyone's going, to the free channels now, and the big Netflixes and that are thinking, well, they started putting adverts on Netflix already, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
On certain content, so
But
they're panicking and seeing where
yeah,
it's going.
Hulu is doing it. All of them. They're paying. You can pay extra not to have the advertisements.
Yes, which I
Yeah,
think is fair because YouTube does that, doesn't it?
yeah.
So you can either get it for free but have adverts, or pay to not have. I think that's the fairest thing, and it normally guarantees the filmmaker gets paid as well because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So you're working on a new project. Tell us a little bit about that, if you can.
Ooh, it's a long one. Yeah, no, I'm shooting a film. It's currently called Slaughter of the Damned, and it's a big monster movie. It's our biggest film yet. We've got a couple of great creatures, and we're going to do some rod puppets as opposed to because like full size creatures are very difficult and very slow and heavy, and so we're going to do some sort of rod puppet to get them sort of moving around quicker and jumping around and stuff. I don't know if you saw the effects in the old Alien 3, which was sort of like early rod puppeting effects, where it's not stop motion, but it's something different. It's faster and cleaner and yeah, much more exciting. You get these puppets jumping around and running and stuff like that. So, and again, lots of gory effects. We've got characters having their throats cut, guts cut out, and yeah, basically it's the story of animals taking their revenge on humans. So.
Concept.
It's it's just going to be like a fun. Again, I'm trying to get some good characters and some good story into it. I'm just editing now, and it's not looking too bad. We've got a great cast of actors. Again, Kit Smith from Sniper Corps is is in it. John Hoy from Pounce is back in it. Then we've got a wonderful actress called Louise Anderson, and Sean Hayes is back in it. Sean Hayes, you have to remember, is an old friend of mine. He's been in every single film I've ever made, I think, back from like 1985. Yeah, he's the soldier in Pounce who starts shooting at the end and goes, "Fuck this!" And if anyone's interested, he's signing photos of his character saying "fuck this" for £3.50. If anyone's interested, no, it's
Definitely.
just if like someone's a good actor, if I get along with them well, I'll keep reusing them, again and again. So I've sort of got like a stable of actors who I'm using at the moment.
Is is that is that important? As I mean, I see it in big box office, where directors and filmmakers they keep their same. They like to use the same actors, actresses, editing guys. They like to keep the same team. Is that important to have that team and that network that you trust?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes life a lot easier. You can normally get them cheaper.
Hmm.
No, it's some fun to make films with your friends. And if you get along with someone, if you know that someone is good, and you ain't got to worry about it, because you're worrying about the lighting, the camera, the track, and you think if the actor just knows what he's doing and you can trust him, and if they're good, then you just sort of worrying about all this other stuff, and you go action, and they're not going, "What's my motivation? What am I doing, man?" You just go, the camera's going, and so yeah, and if someone I know is good and they're easy to get along, because filmmaking can be difficult if you don't get along with people, or if you're having like creative differences, or someone is just a pain in the arse. You don't realize that until you've hired them and the cameras rolling, and you think, "Fuck, I'm stuck with this bloke for 2 weeks or whatever." So
And
I'd
they care.
rather use someone I know and trust.
Yeah.
But if you
And
don't, if you see someone in my early film, you don't see them in the later films. There's a reason for that.
because that
No, I
carries
think
over to
not
the
always.
viewer.
That
Yeah.
I mean, with lead actresses, I like to use someone different every time. I think people would get tired if I kept using the same actress every time. So I try and have someone different for that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
man.
there's Kit and John Hoy and that who keep on going every film with them guys.
I mean, as a viewer, like in the audience, I can tell if there's good chemistry between everyone who's working together, and you can kind of tell if it's unnatural. So I definitely
Well,
think that's important.
so who did you like in Sniper Corps? I mean, was Kit the Colonel guy a bit over the top, or did you
Yeah, he
jump
was
on with that? And
perfect,
yeah,
perfect. Hmm. I mean, the actress, even I can't think of her name, but her with the actual court sniper, even their relationship was great.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm glad it worked. Yeah, that's what we tried to get some kind of sympathy there. And yeah, she was a wonderful actress, and because it's difficult, like acting with a zombie. It's
yeah,
not really easy doing that. And yeah, I mean, she, as crazy as the concept was, she pulled it off, and she sold it. I could have written la la la, they do this, they do that, but if you didn't believe her, and that she believed that he was real, the whole film wouldn't work. The thing would just be a shambles. So, and getting that is difficult. I mean, that's the whole point of a low budget film, is to get people to believe in it. It's not easy.
it's also to keep people's attentions because people's
Yeah,
short now, and I've had this conversation with many filmmakers. You have to, especially in the states, Americans have like a 2 second attention span, and they're off onto something else. And like, so you have to definitely keep them their attention from the beginning,
yeah.
middle, and if not, we tune out.
it's harder and harder as well. And because of that, because people can just click from one channel to 150 others, you know. Um, but you just have to, it's all in the writing, you know. You just got to keep them hooked uh, from page one somehow. Try and come up with a new angle on things, you know. Um, and yeah, keep it going quick. I think a lot of my films, I think I do go a bit too slow sometimes. Um,
I don't think so. Corpse Sniper had my attention from the beginning with. Hope I'm not giving away, but with the blood and guts and the bullets flying from the jump,
yeah.
and I think it was well paced.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it was well paced.
It's that was
I
probably a
didn't
little
zone.
bit slow, but we tried to get as much action. If it ever slowed down anywhere, I mean, there's one scene where they're just talking in this dark room, and some corpse just lumbers in and they blow his head off, and that literally I
Yeah,
just wrote down. I thought this getting a bit slow here. Let's have a zombie come in and just to make something happen, you know.
I mean, I would say every 5 to 10 minutes, something like that was happening in that movie, and that, you know, kept my attention, kept me focused. There was not any point in the movie that I zoned out.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. It's good.
yeah, so it definitely kept my attention. And once again, I'm a cheesy '80s B Swamp Thing movie fan, and like, so you get horror and action together with that
Yeah.
campy beat on top of it and over top gore. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good. That's what I was aiming for. You know, the RoboCop style, Day of the Dead, and just sort of like comic bookish action horror with
Hmm.
good effects, and yeah, just try and get a story in there as well. You know,
Yeah.
the new one is lots of subtext, and um, yeah, I mean, like it's cutting quite long at the moment. I've cut about 50 minutes and thought a lot of story going on here. I'm like, because we was gonna get a name actress. We was originally lined up to get because there's like two or three scenes at the start of some strange old woman, and I thought, okay, there's not a lot of action going on here, but I'll get a star to be in it. So we was lined up to get Caroline Monroe, the Bond girl
Mm.
from the Joe Spinell Maniac film. And I talked to her, I was talking to her agent um, and sent her the script, uh, but she just couldn't do it. I never found out if she didn't like the script or if I know she was ill last year when we was filming. And she was going abroad and going on these Bond reunion things, and she just couldn't do it, sadly. So I then got another actress. I don't know if you've heard of her, called Eileen Daly. She's a sort of British horror actress from the 90s. Was in Razorblade Smile, I think, and a lot of redemption films from the 90s. She was the cover girl for the Redemption label of DVDs in the 90s and did lots of little horror films. And she was all lined up for it. And the thing was, like, I thought, okay, if there's lots of story for like the first half an hour of the film, then at least we've got a star to sell them early scenes. And then, like, as people aren't going to get bored. But for one reason or another, but we didn't end up getting a big name. So I'm like sort of lumped with like 20 minutes of story now. And I'm thinking, we're supposed to have a star in this, and we've got like 20 minutes of story and talking. So I've got to sort of get my way sort of through it a little bit. But it's tough because you want the story to be good, but pacing is important as well.
It
And
is.
you know, it's
You
difficult.
can't.
I mean, if you look at something like Reservoir Dogs, there's not a lot of action really in that. It's all talking, but it's written so well and the performances are so good that you're hooked and you're singing it. So it's just good writing and good storytelling and pacing. So yeah, I do tend to write stuff and drag it out a bit. So I'm trying to put more action in the films to liven them up a bit. But it's all about story, isn't it? Hooking the audience and keeping them hooked with the characters, but you still got to have some frills and spills every like 20 minutes or so, every 15 minutes or so.
But that's why that's why I'm not a huge fan of the Friday the 13th fans. Movies. I like the last one, the reboot. I'm not a huge fan of the franchise because it's the same old story every
Yeah.
single, and it's like these expendable characters that you don't get to know, you don't care about them. It's just they're just targets in his way, and how many of those movies there's no way in hell I could sit there and do a marathon of Friday the 13th movies. There's no way in hell because it's literally the same movie over and over and over again.
I mean, obviously I grew up and watched all them when I was younger and got sick of them, and some I liked, some I didn't. Looking back now, I quite like part 6 because of the
Part
humor.
six, part six is my second favorite one behind the root.
Yeah, and part 7, I'm even sort of warming to that a little bit now because that girl with the psychic, at least it's something original,
Yeah.
I watch them for nostalgic reasons, not, it's not,
Yeah.
it's like different watching them now than watching them, 37, 35 years ago.
I love them, growing up, and then like as an adult, I try to rewatch them. I'm like, boy, like I've tried doing like a Friday 13th marathon. I'm like, I can't sit through the majority of those movies anymore, back to back to back, because it's literally the same story
Yeah, it's exactly, yeah,
over
it's
again.
really annoying. I like parts 1 and 2 before, because they're like their own little thing anyway. 1 and 2, they're their own sort of separate franchise to the rest, I think, because Betsy Palmer's in both of them and it ties them up a little bit. But yeah, once it got to 3, 4, and 5, I don't like that one. But yeah, 6 is at least it's taking the mickey out of itself a little bit and doing something slightly different, and it's fun. That's the
Yes,
point. 4 and 5 aren't all that fun. The 6 is a load of fun and something different. I think.
and then once you start getting into like the Mad Hatter and Jason Goes to Hell and all that, it just goes.
Well, it's like the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I only like the first 2 and the last one. I can't watch the rest.
I'm
There's all
and
effects and there's no character. And I just, back in the 80s, you like, Freddy's doing this, Freddy's doing that. I always liked the first one and the second one, never liked the third one, maybe a little bit I could
I like
watch.
the first three. I like the first three. Like
Yeah.
Dream, my is my favorite. Part 3 is my personal
Oh,
favorite.
okay.
But after that, it just takes a dive hard. Every movie after part 3 is just, and Freddy's my favorite horror character, and like the movies get really bad after part 3.
Yeah. They just, I mean, the effects are good in part 4. I like the effects, but there's, but the characters are so awful.
Yeah, the creativity
Uh,
is gone at that point.
And part 5, I'm not even sure if I've actually seen part 5 all the way through. Even when I was like 15, I knew this is crap, and switched it off
Yeah.
or whatever. Which shows you why part 7 was so good, The New Nightmare, because Wes
Yeah,
Craven understood about story and character and doing something different with it as well. And keeping Freddy in the dark and keeping him off screen and keeping him in the shadows and not having him telling jokes and stuff.
yeah.
Um,
They kind of turned him into a cartoon character from like part 3. It starts, and then from that point, he becomes a cartoon character for like the rest of the movies up until part 7. I mean, even in Jason versus Freddy, which I actually liked, he's
wasn't as
kind
bad as it could have been. Yeah, it
of,
wasn't as
yeah,
bad as it could have been.
he's cracking jokes and he's a cartoon character, and I'm like, I like the bitter, nasty, scary Freddy.
Yeah, yeah. Now they as with all things, the bigger it gets, the bigger audience it gets. They got to take the horror out and try and sell it like a lunchbox
Yeah,
or a Happy Meal, and it, that just just takes away any originality and any, especially horror. I mean, horror's like, it should be stuff like The Exorcist. You can't sell that to the Freddy audience and
Yeah.
it becomes stick it on MTV and stuff. So yeah, that's when horror started to go downhill. For all the franchises, though, wasn't it? I mean, look at the Hellraiser franchises. I mean,
Oh.
they're doing that as well, didn't they? I mean, they're still making them now, aren't they?
Well, the reboot was pretty good. That came on Hulu. That I actually enjoyed. That's the first Hellraiser I've enjoyed in a long time. The first two original I liked, but I've never been a real big Hellraiser fan. And the reason why, I mean, I love Pinhead as a character, but Pinhead's never been the actual villain in the movies.
Yeah.
So him and the Cenobites have always been like an afterthought that comes out in the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
So
they're a secondary character that's just in it. But yeah,
yeah,
that's the main bad guy. That's a good point.
and with the reboot, the new one, to make Pinhead and Cenobites like the main villain, the main character, was something new. I liked it.
Okay. I haven't seen it. I'll have to watch it.
Definitely gotta check that one out.
Because I've heard mixed reviews, and I'm like, yeah, because you get older and you think, oh, I'm not going to waste my time watching something that isn't really getting.
Best one. It's the best one, right behind the original. I would say that. I mean, the original I think is number one, and then that one definitely comes number two.
Yeah, I like certain aspects of part two. I think overall it's not a very good film, but I love the scenes with the Cenobites fighting, and I love the new Cenobite that comes in it as well. It's really good.
Mhm.
I actually got to meet the Kenneth Cranham a couple of years ago, and he was like really impressed because his picture was on the cover of the Blu-ray, and he was like, "Oh, I'm on the cover," He was really he went to sign it for me, and he was so impressed that he had the main cover to himself. Yeah, and he was quite a funny guy.
I actually met Doug Bradley, Pinhead, the original Pinhead, a couple years back. Nice guy, nice guy.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I've not met him. I would always want to meet Clive Barker, but he lives in America now, and he rarely comes back to England for like any signings or anything. And he's had health issues, hasn't he, for years?
Now, is that a picture with you and George A. Romero in the back?
It is indeed, yes. Yeah,
I've been looking at the whole entire interview. I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah, I got to meet George twice. And the second time, this time, was in England, in Brighton, in 2015. And it was the strangest thing. I went to a convention on a Sunday afternoon, which is always the best time to go. I never go on the Saturday because everyone's there.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'd seen the queues the first time I met him in London. And then I went to the convention. I was walking around and it was empty. It's like 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and the convention closes at like 5 or 6 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I go upstairs, and he's just sitting there by himself in the corner. And I'm like, oh my God, that's George Romero. And he's just sitting there by himself, no queue of people. There's maybe 2 people wandering around the place. And I just did a beeline over to him. And basically I kept him chatting for about 25 minutes and a big long conversation. I think he was sort of looking like, is anyone else in here? This geezer keeps talking to me. So yeah, I got to have a really long conversation with him, and it was right before I made Sniper Corpse or Corpse Sniper. And I was telling him about it, and he just said, it sounds good. You've got my blessing, And he was quite helpful. Yeah, he was very tired. I think he'd had a long weekend. But he was telling me about Stephen King and telling me about his. We literally, I was thinking like, it's been like 15 minutes and we're still talking, and it got to a point where I thought like, I'm just going to turn around and I'm expecting to see a queue of like 50 people behind me. Mm-hmm. And I turned around and there was 2 people, and I thought, sod it, we're going to carry on talking for another 10 minutes.
So that's amazing.
Loads of stuff, and he was very approachable, very nice guy. Have you met him?
No, I have not. I would have loved to have met him.
You didn't get to meet him.
And what's crazy?
Yeah, lucky I got to meet him twice.
Yeah.
And the first time with Greg Nicotero, who was another charming guy. But yeah, he's on my list. Just trying to think, who else did I see recently? Because there's not many of these guys left, is there? You know,
Yeah.
sadly,
And
a lot of them are dying off. You know.
yeah, Sam Raimi was doing a convention close. I live in Baltimore, and he was in Philadelphia, which is not that far away, about 2 hours
Yeah.
away. And something came up, and I couldn't go. But like, I mean, Sam Raimi, Evil Dead. I mean,
Yeah.
even Drag Me Hell. I would have loved to be able to get his autograph and picture. I mean, I love his movies. And like you said, Clive Barker, he doesn't do any appearances anymore.
Yeah, I think he's getting a bit old, and he's too busy painting, isn't he? That's all he does now. Sits and paints all day. But yeah, I mean, like, it's only really like you think there's Clive Barker, John Carpenter, yeah, Sam Raimi.
I met John. This was amazing. I got his autograph. But yeah, because Halloween. So Wes Craven is my favorite horror director by far.
Yes, I really wanted to meet Wes Craven, but never got the chance.
But Halloween '78, that's my favorite horror movie. But I mean, number one, probably always will be.
Yeah, it's top 5 easily. I'm trying to think what my favorite horror movie is. Either Psycho, which I think is one of the most perfect horror movies, full stop. Or yeah, I think top 3: Psycho, Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then Halloween maybe. Because it's weird, as you get older, films change, or your opinion of them changes. And some film that like in the 80s you thought was amazing, you watch it in 2022, 23, and you're like, what did I ever see in that film? And some films you didn't like in the 80s, you watch in 22, even that's a really good film. Because speaking of John Carpenter, I really love In the Mouth of Madness. Always loved that film, and then that film grows on me over time as well. People say, oh, it's from the 90s, it's not one of these greats, but yeah, I put that over a lot of his stuff in the 80s.
Yeah,
that's my personal opinion. Now I've got a twisted, personal opinion of films.
I'm an '80s guy. I love the '80s horror movies. They are, most of them are in my top 10, but I do like a couple of the newer ones, like especially last year. Like I say it all the time, last year was like a great year for horror movies. Barbarian came out, X and Pearl, Smile, I enjoyed. Terrifier 2, even though I hated Terrifier 1, Terrifier 2 was good. There was a lot of good horror movies last year, and it was original ideas. Even Prey came out. That was a reboot or something of The Predator. That was great. But yeah, I mean, there's some new stuff that's coming out that that's might crack my top 10 soon.
I'm surprised that because films that are getting popular and breaking through and becoming popular, which I didn't think was possible anymore. The way the world is, you don't really get horror films being hits or hit films anymore. Same with music. But yeah, certain films, like you said, Terrifier 2 was sort of a big hit. A couple of others that came out, and hearing people talking about them and seeing them online. So there is good avenues. If you've got a good film, you can like break out and get out there, and do some business, because you don't get any sequels nowadays, because no one ever makes a film popular enough to have a sequel, do they?
Exactly.
Which is kind of strange, but yeah, but I said the originality, I think, is coming back into stuff, or just visionary directors who are doing clever things,
Which I'm loving, because I mean, there's a lot of fresh ideas coming out, but there's a lot of sequels, like Halloween Ends and all that stuff.
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
Yeah, don't get me started. Every single video, by the way, I've done in the last couple of months has been bashing Halloween Ends. So this is gonna be one I'm not gonna say nothing bad about Halloween Ends.
I must admit, I watched the reboot in 2018. Was it just the Halloween? And it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. But I just thought, like, haven't I saw this film called Halloween H2O 20 years before that told the exact same story pretty much, and it'd been done before, you know. But yeah, it was, you know, like the originality is long gone out of them films, sadly. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, you know.
Yeah. I like 2018. I wish they would have stopped it there.
They should have stopped it there, yeah, and didn't do the other. So.
It was a decent enough ending. Just rolled off into the sunset. All right, Keith. Well, where can everyone find you, my friend?
The best place is to check out my films either on YouTube or on the Other Dimension Films YouTube channel. Also, if you get the chance, check out my new little series of animated stories called Comic Shock. If you like audio books or radio dramas illustrated in like 80s style comic illustrations, then check out Comic Shock. There's 3 episodes so far. They're all playing on YouTube. And yeah, if you like creepy little things in the middle of the night to sit and listen and use your imagination, that's it, you know. And really gruesome drawings and that as well. So yeah, definitely check out Comic Shock. Go to the YouTube channel, or just in general, go to the Other Dimension Films website, which is www.otherdimensionfilms.com.
Awesome. Everybody, listen, hop on YouTube. Hop on this man's website. Go into TV. Check out Pounce, The Unwelcome, and Sniper Corpse, or Corpse. In the U.S., it's Corpse Sniper, by the way. So look up Corpse Sniper in the U.S. Keith, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you for coming.
Can I just add, sorry to interrupt, if you watch the Corpse Sniper, that might be a slightly cut version. The Sniper Corpse is the uncut version. I was asked to tone down the gore and desaturate the gore scenes, a bit like what Scorsese did in Taxi Driver for the Tubi. It could be the Tubi release. You might want to check out the YouTube one and just check to make sure all the gory bits are in there and it's not all desaturated. So beware.
Yeah. Check out the YouTube, because there was tons of gore in the Tubi version. So
and it was toned down. To get a PG kind of rating and to get more plays. Yeah, can you believe that? Well, thank you for having me on your show. It's been great. Great chatting.
You're welcome to come back on anytime to promote anything.
Yeah, when the new film's done, I'll come back and I'll talk your ears off some more then.
It'll be a pleasure. It will be a pleasure. Well, everyone, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.